Warren Buffett now calling on Wells Fargo, this time to look beyond Wall Street for its next CEO. An interview with the Financial Times that was published on Sunday, the legendary investor, who is the bank's largest shareholder, said the next leader should not come from J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs. He said qualified candidates from Wall Street would draw too much scrutiny from Congress. Former Chief Executive Tim Sloan, of course, stepped down last month, raised some interesting questions about who he might be indicating that he would like. I've thought of, a lot of people had thought you might get somebody from a J.P. Morgan. The CFO, Miss Lake, is considered one
Marianne Lake.
Marianne Lake is considered one of the top people. People have mentioned Ruth Porat, used to work at Morgan Stanley, now the CFO of Google. I actually think the job of being the CFO of Google may be a better job than being the CEO. People have talked about lots of different people, but typically from the other banks.
Well, this article mentioned, not something Buffett mentioned in the article, but this article mentioned that maybe the head of PNC Bank, who used to be at J.P. Morgan as well, would be somebody who could be interesting from that because you'd be coming from a more regional bank factor. I read the article. I haven't talked to Buffett about this at all. I read the article just actually this morning. The one thing I would say is they're characterizing this as him calling for this. Right. My guess would be this was just a conversation he was having, because in the past he's been very careful to say that as an owner of 10% of the bank, he can't be an active owner.
Sloan,
he has not been involved. Yeah, he likes Sloan. He gave his support both right before and right after he stepped down. And I think his point would be is that he's not involved in choosing the new CEO, and I don't think this is guidance from him. My guess is this is a conversation where they were just asking him what it would take, and he probably said something along the lines of, well, in order to not be under fire from Congress and the regulators like they have been, they might want to choose somebody like this. But my guess is this is not him calling directly for that, and that's a bit of a mischaracterization, I would guess, that the article, that's their words, not ours. But they're not his words either, because I read through pretty carefully to check that out.
I knew I had done this. It's early in the morning. I made a list as I was writing that as I was reading that article last night. I was writing that article of a couple people. What do you think of Indra Nooyi? I was thinking of somebody I was trying to think of people outside the financial sector who I was thinking of women too, specifically.
Why?
Because
virtue signaling, perhaps?
No, because I think there's a sense right now.
How about Elon?
In the banking world.
I want Musk to go and start tweeting about sales practices.
No, but I think in this day and age, if they're trying to recast the bank, I think that there's just a sense that might be something they might be looking for.
I think if you look too far afield, you're going to have a problem, because I think you're going to need somebody who's got banking experience.
So here's my other.
That's a unique concept. Not a retailer.
How do you like this one? I think you might like this one. Catherine Marinello. I don't know if you remember her. She runs Hertz Today. So not seemingly Wall Street. Used to run First Data, used to run all sorts of financial services businesses historically.
I think both of those would be interesting people to be added to the board. I don't know that you want a CEO who hasn't run a bank before. That would be my one concern.
Just throwing it out there. And then even though, because her name's been popping up on a lot of things, though she comes from a bank, Anne Finucane, Bank of America.
Oh, that's interesting.
And she's lived through the crisis and done a lot of things that have seemed very progressive around trying to fix the bank and shift the perception of the bank. Anyway, a couple of women to put on the potential list. So.
I like Anne Finucane. That's a really interesting idea.
Okay.